All right. So thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah.
So you just announced a show at the Iridium in New York City for your 76th birthday. So growing up in Watertown, New York, all the way upstate, did you ever think you would play in New York City, let alone a place that housed Les Paul of all people?
I remember when we first started and we were like going from rehearsal room to rehearsal room, and I drive past Madison Square Garden. I'll say, we'll never get there. I would drive past Radio City Music Hall. We're never going to get there. Uh, you know, there were a lot of great downtown theaters too. We played them all. We played them
Right.
all.
I remember, a great story when Paul Stanley from Kiss just starting out driving a cab and dropping
Yep.
people off at Elvis Presley's concert going, I will never play there.
Yeah.
What is it like, seeing Madison Square Garden, being inside it? Like I hear all these different stories about it.
Well, it's the top of the heap. At least it was. I don't know. They have the Sphere now in Las
Right.
Vegas. That might be the top of the heap now. I'll never play the Sphere,
You never
but
know, right?
maybe. You never know. You never know.
So,
Uh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
okay, so yeah, so we were just lucky enough to play Madison Square Garden 3 times. We played at Radio City a couple of times. We played all the downtown theaters. And now I'm excited about going back in and playing in the very famous venue called Iridium, where Les Paul would play every week. Every week, I don't know, probably for a decade, probably for 10 years. He was kind of retired, but he could do a thing on Monday night. It wasn't hard for him to get there. And he would have everybody, Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix. Well, I don't know, maybe not Jimi Hendrix, but, everybody who was a guitar player, and he would be nice to them and he would let them sit in. And I remember driving around town and a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should go to Iridium and sit in with Les Paul." And I said, "No, that'll never happen. No." And I said, "Well, I'll just, he's going to be there but he died.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, he passed
unfortunately.
away, and I've heard that he was the greatest guy, and if it wouldn't matter if you were like a superstar with platinum albums or you were just a teenager in a high school, he would let you sit in. He would let you sit in. So I, this is my chance to go to Iridium and imagine, sitting on that stage, playing on that stage. I won't be sitting. I'll be up there rocking, and to be on that stage where he was for decades at least, and so many people were, and it's a great place. I actually played there with Blue Coupe, which is one of the bands I play with, and the keyboard player from Steppenwolf sat in with us. That was exciting because I've always loved Steppenwolf. Born to Be Wild, and The Pusher, and a lot of their songs, and so Goldie McJohn actually was a friend of a friend. Said, "Hey, come on in." So he had the big organ. He's playing the organ just like Steppenwolf. So yeah, I've been there. I think that might be the only time. But it
All right.
is a classy. It's right on Broadway.
Mhm.
It's on Broadway. It's 2 blocks from Times Square. Whoa, lost my ear. I got you.
There we go.
Oh, you
Round two,
got
take
me. I
two.
got you.
All right.
Sorry
So,
about that.
no, it's
Okay.
okay. So you originally got your big break with Blue Oyster Cult, back in 1972. So the band started out in Long Island. So at the time, were you already living there, or did you have to travel all the way north, from the north, all the way down to Long Island?
Well, the way it was, I'll give you a little bit of the history. Uh, my brother met the guitar player back in 1965,
Wow.
long before you were born. But they were engineering students at Clarkson College. It's now Clarkson University, but it was Clarkson College, way in upstate New York, the snowy north. And then they discovered that they both liked to play music. So they had a college band. And of course, what happens is they flunked out, you know. And I think both of them realized we're not going to be engineers, you know. My brother was in civil engineering, and Don Roser, Buck Dharma, as he was known later, was in electrical engineering, you know, electrical guy. He loves the gadgets. So they had a band, went through a few iterations, and they had a deal with Elektra Records, and that was in 1966, 67. And they made 2 albums that were never finished for Elektra. So they knew that they had to do something different. So that's when I came aboard. It was 1970. You know, several of the guys had been together for a couple of years before that. So that's how I got into the mix, you know. And we so did we make a living? No. We made I remember saying, well, let's go out on tour. That's how musicians make money.
Right.
So we went on upstate New York tour, Pennsylvania, coal mining towns, all the way from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia to, Massachusetts, Connecticut. And so we went out and like, oh, this is great. This is great. We came back with less money than we started with.
The rock and roll ritual.
Yeah, we came back with less money than we went out with. Ah! So it was, we'd scrounge enough money to pay our heat bill because we had a house. I don't know what the rent was on the house, but it was in a nice neighborhood. But we were the scourge of the neighborhood. We were the hippie house, guys with long hair, that didn't have a job. That didn't. When are you going to get a real job?
Right.
So, no, it was rough back in 1970, and but it wasn't that bad, When I think about the whole thing, a lot of bands start out, and they'll be slaving away for 10 years before they get a record deal. You got to figure 10 years of starvation.
Yeah.
Or living with your girlfriend or sleeping in your parents' basement,
Right.
You'll be doing that for 10 years, I mean, is it worth it? You go work in a bank or something, do better than that. McDonald's.
It could be a hobby. McDonald's, right?
McDonald's.
So
but after a year in the band for me, I mean, the other guys have been in it for three years before me. We auditioned for Clive Davis at Columbia Records, and he signed us. We did an audition in the conference room, loud, fast. It was. I thought we weren't very good, but there were some people there that said, "Hey, you should sign them," and then they signed us to a contract. Then the real work starts. You think you've worked hard, but when that first contract, to do an album for Columbia, man, we were working 7 days a week. I mean, rehearsing, and then we'd have to go out and play a show so that we could make money to buy spaghetti. Ate a lot of pasta,
Right.
Yeah, it was, and then the album comes out, and then we got on a real tour. Still no money, but all over the Midwest and down south, and we were opening shows for like Alice Cooper was a big influence on us. Alice Cooper. We opened shows for Black Sabbath, Uriah Heep. Savoy Brown Blues Band, everything. Bob Seger opened for us.
Wow.
Yeah, Bob Seger opened for us. So, and it still wasn't much money, when at the end of the day, but we survived that ordeal. And then it took us 5 years before we had a couple of singles out. My song "Hot Rails to Hell" was the second single. My brother's song "Cities on Flame" was the first single. "Career of Evil" was the third single. Not exactly top 10 material.
Right, right.
Fans love it, but the radio and the powers that be are not going to make that into a hit. So um, eventually, we made a live record that did really well. "On Your Feet or On Your Knees" was a big popular record for us, and that pushed us to the next level. And then we opened a tour for Rod Stewart, and
Okay.
it was the last Rod Stewart and the Faces tour, the last one they ever did, and they had an
Wow.
orchestra, they had string players. It was nuts.
Hmm.
But, and very important, was the first time that we played for a female audience. I mean, before that, it was all guys in leather jackets, blue
Right,
jeans
right.
and leather jackets. And then we were playing in front of Rod Stewart, and they were very nice to us. They made us sound good. They had a great sound system, and we played. That was the first time in Madison Square Garden, by the way.
Okay.
It was the first time in Madison Square Garden with Rod Stewart, and everybody came. David Bowie, Bruce Springsteen,
Wow.
Andy Warhol came to the show. We had a party after with Andy Warhol and his crew.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was exciting. But so that was 75. And then 1976 rolls around, and the elephant in the room finally makes his appearance. And we're talking about the big hit song that still is alive to this day, "Don't Fear the
Hmm.
Reaper." You
Yep.
know, Nobody talked about the cowbell. Not until 2000, not until the year
SNL,
2000
yeah.
that the cowbell raised its ugly head. But yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time for and how it all happened is just we worked hard, and there's some talent there, but it was a lot of luck too. Getting
Right.
on the Stewart tour, and then the next thing you know, we put out this Reaper song, which is a unique song because it combines the sort of sci-fi mystical Blue Oyster Cult thing with a love song.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, the place is packed with guys and bringing their dates. It was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell of the first decade of Blue Oyster Cult. Uh,
Right.
it was fantastic. So after I kind of wore out my time with Blue Oyster Cult, I said it was time to do something different.
Okay.
And then I started. I was in a publishing company for a while. Worked in a publishing company for a while. I taught guitar lessons for a while, um, quite a while actually. Everybody wanted to learn to play the guitar, and who better? Who
Right,
better to
right, yeah.
teach them? And I had great students. But then I retired from that, and then I started getting a little bored. It's time to do something really good.
Hmm.
So I started making. I started. I've this is. I'm working on my eighth solo album, but
Okay.
I've got 7 out now. And the last 2, I actually went to a studio with one of the greatest drummers of all time, hands down. I don't know if you know his name, Mickey Curry.
I've definitely heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, he played with Hall & Oates
Hmm.
for a lot of their hits. He did a lot of the hits for Bryan Adams. He played with Mick Jagger. He played with Cher. He played with Tina Turner. Played with the Cult. The Cult, that big record,
They're
three
awesome. Yeah,
million
they're
seller.
great.
So this guy, he's got 40 gold records. I've got 10. He's got 40. And he's
It's a
so
full line.
modest. And it just so happens through a friend of a friend, through his brother actually. I met his brother at an open mic, and he said, "Yeah, you should call up my brother Mickey. He retired from Bryan Adams. He just was worn out, 35 years on the road, playing stadiums and big festivals and playing for kings and queens and all over the world. I mean, he's done everything. He's really done everything. But he's just a fantastic guy, and he sort of. So I worked with him in the studio. This was just a studio thing, and it was working out so good. And we did a show in Connecticut in a nice theater, the Katharine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center,
Okay.
and so just luckily we made a live recording. We had a new system, the in-ear monitors. I know.
Yeah, everyone's using them now.
Yeah, everybody's using them now. But what I didn't know is, if you use the in-ear monitors, you can record direct to your laptop, and you get a multi-track. I mean, it's like one USB cable, and you get a multi-track. And yeah, it really worked well. And also your vocals are clearer because you don't have a big loud monitor. It's just very clear in the vocals. And so I hired a guy to do four cameras, 4-camera video shoot. Learned all the software, learned Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro X, all the software. I'm sitting in my studio now, but I learned all that technology. It was like going back to school. But it came out great, and I got 750,000 views on these live videos. Yeah, right now I've got 60,000 followers on YouTube, and so we started thinking, well, how's this going, guys? We would have these great meetings at the house here, and great food, and I'd say, guys, this is a win. This is a win. We got to do this some more. So this year, a couple of great things happened. Number one, Blue Oyster Cult haven't done anything with me in years. I've sent them stuff to use, but they've got a whole different agenda. The current version of Blue Oyster Cult.
Right.
But they had put out a record that did pretty well for this Italian record label they have, Frontiers. And they were looking to put out a new album, but they didn't have any songs.
Okay.
They found a song. They found like a mess of songs from 1981 and 1982.
Wow.
And they put out a song that I wrote and sing, and it's just a rehearsal.
Okay. Oh, so it's one of those from the vaults.
From the vault.
Never thought it was going to happen, right?
And it did. So that was the first single they put out. The song "So Supernatural."
Wow.
And I never ever thought that it would see the light of day. I mean, it's just gone to the. But this guy Richie Castellano, who's one of the newer Blue Oyster Cult guys, he found that song. Amazing. Yeah, he is amazing. Have you followed his John Anderson stuff?
I have not. I did see them live a couple of years ago, and he was fantastic.
Yeah. They put out a new album of new stuff that's amazing. So anyway, while he's doing John Anderson's project, he's doing a new Blue Oyster Cult thing and mixing me down. And what they did, it's kind of like the technology that the Beatles used on the Get Back movie, where they could take a mono recording and turn it into a multi-track, separate the voices, because maybe when they were just rehearsing, the mix is not perfect, Yeah. But they did that same process for this new Blue Oyster Cult album, where they would separate the tracks, remix it, and Richie did a great job. And then he did a video for it, So Supernatural video, and that did
Hmm.
really well. That
Right.
had a quarter of a million views, something like that.
Well,
So
so I
I said,
quickly
it's time for me to do something.
so I quickly wanted to backtrack very
Okay.
quickly. You said that Perfect Water off the Club Ninjas album is the perfect song. What makes you say that?
Oh, I don't remember when I said it, but it was my favorite song on that album.
Right.
It's just got I don't know. It's a very intense emotional song.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, some great licks on it. And Donald's vocal is beautiful, a beautiful, that his vocal is not right for every song, some
Hmm.
songs, but he is right spot on for that one.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And I had to ask about one of my favorite Blue Oyster Cult songs, Tattoo Vampire. So what went into making that song and coming up in general with just fresh ideas?
Well, my brother wrote that song with a singer. She's passed away now, but Helen Wheels.
Hmm.
And Helen had a punk band in New
Okay.
York, the Helen Wheels Band. And it was fun. It was a fun band. So she wrote a lot of lyrics. She wrote lyrics for me. She wrote Nosferatu, um, Light Years of Love, Celestial Queen. I started writing with her too.
Hmm.
But early on, uh, she got tattooed. She's in a punk band. I mean, this is before everybody's tattooed now, except me.
Right, right.
But uh, so she would hang out at the tattoo parlors down in the village,
Okay.
and I think that was the inspiration for that. Was
Okay.
she it was you know it was weird for girls to have tattoos then. I mean,
Hmm.
really weird. Sailors would have tattoos. Bikers might have tattoos. Girls, no. But she had a bunch of tattoos, some great ones,
Right.
and
So
that's
you
where
recorded
that
a
came from.
handful of records. Yeah. So before you talk about all the solo records and just all the records you've made it all together. So in Blue Coupe, obviously your brother and Dennis Dunaway from Alice Cooper. What's it like
Yep.
to be in a band with your brother? I know that Oasis, the Black Crowes, sometimes always doesn't work, but what is it like on your side to be able to work with your brother?
Well, it's an on and off relationship.
Okay.
It's on and off. My mother, back in the '60s, Albert was a little crazy, and he still hasn't changed. So when I joined the band, 1970, she was so happy that I was going to be there to keep him out of trouble. But it doesn't work.
Right.
Certain people just don't change. And yeah, we've had incredible times, and we look at it, it's like, did this really happen, or are we just dreaming all of this?
Right,
Because
right.
we're from a very small town, upstate New York.
Hmm.
I was born in Watertown, but we actually grew up in Clayton. Very
Okay.
small town. We had a farm, so we grew up on this farm. We turned the barn into a dance hall. We started getting popular in high school, but it was like a little small time high school band. But we always had fun. We always did have fun. And then when I joined the band, yeah, it was Albert on and off. Keeping him consistent was a challenge. But
Hmm.
we made it through those big years with the band. I started a band, the Bouchard brothers, about 7 years ago with Albert,
Hmm.
um, and we're on hiatus right now.
Okay.
Probably one of the reasons I started the Joe Bouchard band was it was time to do my own thing.
Right,
Right,
right.
because we had a great show. The Bouchard brothers show was great. Um, uh, we were doing Albert's Imaginos project, which is really great. We're doing some of my songs. We're doing Blue Oyster Cult songs. It was a great show. Just there were no drums. It was just acoustic guitar and a couple other guitars. Albert
Right.
played bass some of the time. And it was a really interesting set list.
Hmm.
Every time we play, we had more songs that we could use,
Right,
which
right.
was great. Um, yeah. So, but that kind of ran its course,
Hmm.
and he started another band, and I worked with, but then he actually is doing just a solo show now.
Wow.
Just did 3 weeks in Scotland and England.
That's
But
awesome.
really solo. That's what he was doing.
Hmm.
So meantime, my live recordings, the live at the Kate, they call it the Kate Theater. They're
Hmm.
getting 500,000 views on,
Wow.
a million, I don't know, 750,000 views on
Yeah.
YouTube. And so I'm thinking, well, what if I took this seriously? What if I took this seriously? So I said to the band, you come to my house and we rehearse for 3 months, not every day, but every week. And, and then we're going to go into the studio instead of doing it like piecemeal, where I would just do demos here and then replace parts and stuff like that. We're going to go into the studio live, all four of us playing together in a great studio. This place called the what is it? The power station.
Okay.
Not the power station in New York, but they have a power station here in Connecticut.
Okay. I'm also based in Connecticut right now, which
Oh
is funny
yeah,
that you just mentioned
yeah,
that.
yeah. In Waterford, Connecticut.
Okay.
It's an exact duplicate of the power station that was in New York.
Right.
That's now owned by Berkeley College.
Okay.
Berkeley College of Music bought power station, and they use it as a teaching facility. But this one up in Connecticut, in Waterford, was great, fantastic. And so I brought the video cameras in. I said, guys, we'll bring the video guy in. We'll actually have a record of this, of what we're doing for the new album. So yeah, it was exciting. It was very exciting, and I'm excited about it now.
Hmm.
Uh, I still have a lot more work to do on the recordings, and
Right.
then I have to start on the videos. So
Oh,
you do the recordings, get them all sounding great. Then you make some cool videos of us in the studio with lots of B-roll and you know things to make it exciting.
yeah.
And meantime, my manager says, "Hey, let's get this band out on the road."
Which, yeah, you just beat me to my to my next question already.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask that, your band, you have Joan Levy Hepburn on guitar,
yep,
you also have Bobby MacDougall
yep.
on the bass, and then as you mentioned, Mickey Curry.
Mickey
What's it
Curry.
like, picking up new pieces, bass over here, let's call this guy in, guitar, let's call them in. Like, what's it like forming that band?
It's really exciting because it just has a whole another dimension. I can't give it away because it's going to be a little while before it's all done.
Hmm.
And I'm taking my time on this project. It was exciting. I've worked with Bobby since the 90s, on
Wow.
and off, but I just know he's got a fabulous ear and he plays anything. He can play anything. He's one of those guys. And then
Right.
Joan, she's a fabulous guitar player, does a lot of finger style. She was an acoustic player until she met up with me, and I
Okay.
turned her into a Stratocaster. She loves it. She loves it.
But Jimi
So,
Hendrix played nothing
yeah,
better.
yeah. And then I've learned from my solo albums. I've learned to be a better songwriter, I think, you know. I think they're all you know, the next one better than the last one. Uh, it's just it's fun. It's fun just diving into, you know, a lot of stories that are part of my life, or
Mhm.
you know, and there's a little bit of me in every song. So
Right, right.
and yeah, we'll see how it works. You know,
Yeah,
we'll be calling you back
yeah, exactly.
to get
So you mentioned
to
meeting up with
get the inside story of the
exactly
songs.
right.
I
So you
can't.
meant
My lips are sealed. I can't tell you.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
with a wink and a nod, right? I
yeah,
can't say anything.
yeah.
So
But we have a whole new album. We have a couple of side things that we did. I actually did a new version of the song that Blue Oyster Cult put out,
okay.
knowing that that was just a rehearsal tape. You know,
Mhm.
what would happen if I went in the studio and cut that song live?
Right.
One of the greatest drummers, and
Mhm.
the great, you know, and the lyrics were never finished, to be honest, on the Blue
Okay.
Oyster Cult version. So I wrote a new second verse. You know, I changed around the form just slightly, but boy, does it sound good. You know,
Right. What's that songwriting
it,
process like?
that one I don't remember what, you know. It was the '80s when I wrote the original song, so
Okay.
I okay, I was into the occult. You know,
Okay.
I don't really know much about science fiction or any of these kind of like wacky, wackadoodle conspiracy stuff. I don't know anything about that. But I got a
Okay.
book about the occult,
Mhm.
and I'm reading this book by Colin Wilson. I figured, like, you know, I'm in a band called Blue Oyster Cult. Maybe I should learn about the occult, you know.
Right. Right.
And I'm reading this book, and there's some lines in there. So, whoa, I could use that, you know, especially in the bridge of the song. I don't know if you know it, but if you look it up, you'll hear the bridge was about this idea of doing seances where the tables turn.
Right.
It's a
Whether
bunch of
believe
baloney,
in that,
but you
right?
know, it's good baloney.
Exact couldn't belong. So there's something that you mentioned before that I wanted to touch base on. You mentioned meeting Bobby MacDougall in the 90s, and around that same time, the heavy metal band Metallica covered one of your songs, Astronomy, and put it on their really popular covers album, Garage Inc. So what's it like when the new wave of rock and roll gives a little the tip of the hat to you?
That changed my life.
Okay.
You know,
How so?
as I mentioned, I was in a publishing company, and it was kind of fun. I got really bored staring at a computer every day, but I wrote 3 or 4 books for this company, and it was all educational music books. I
Okay.
wrote a piano book, a couple of piano books, a couple of bass books, guitar book, while I was in this company. But I was ready for a change. You know, I was getting worn out, and
Mhm.
I I I guess I was goofing off at work, and I went on AOL message board. Do you remember that? You don't remember that?
I unfortunately don't.
No, no. You know, the message boards weren't very sophisticated in those days.
Okay.
I just turned on a Blue Oyster Cult message board, and it said, Metallica is going to do a song by Blue Oyster Cult. I said, "Oh, that's fantastic." You know, but it'll probably be, you know, Burning for You or one of the usuals.
Right.
Then I found out, wait a minute, they're going to do astronomy. I quit my day job. I gave them notice. I'm I'm leaving. First of the
Right.
year. I'm leaving. I'm gone.
Mhm.
And I had no idea if I was going to even, you know, I knew they were going to do it, but I didn't know if I would ever make any money off of it.
Right.
Meanwhile, they sell 5 million albums.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oh,
getting
hey.
a penny. But that's 50,000 pennies.
Yeah. It's not a bad check to bring home at all. So mentioning
It's not bad.
Metallica.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it changed my life. And
Okay.
the first guy, I met him at the magazine store, was Ian Hunter of Matahoopel.
Yeah.
Fantastic musician. And we had recorded some of his songs. He remembered me and he gave me his number. So as soon as I found out that they were going to do Astronomy, Metallica, my name was going to be on a Metallica album.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked. I was like, wow, they're huge all over the world. I
Yeah.
would see royalty statements come in from like Brazil and in Yugoslavia and in India, you know, all of the, like, it's my song and they're selling it all over the world.
Yeah.
So I quit my day job. I didn't know what I was going to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I called up Ian Hunter. I said, Ian, I've got this thing going on Monday nights. Are you available? We're going to go down to Neil Smith's house. Neil was the original drummer with Alice Cooper. So
Right.
I said, let's go down to Neil's house and we'll write some songs. You know, it'll be fun, you know. And so I go to pick up Ian at his house, and it's
Mhm.
about a 45-minute drive from Ian's house to Neil's house. So I'm sitting in the car talking to Ian Hunter. And I said, well, how did you do this? You know, what does it take? What are your methods
Right.
for
Right.
writing songs? And it's like having a personal, you know, one of the great geniuses of the rock era giving me his tips, you know.
Right.
And,
It was like a front row seat.
then we go down to Neil's house and it was kind of loud. Oh, let me just go back a little bit. I pick him up at his house and I said, where's your guitar? He says, I'm not going to bring a guitar. I said, well, you should bring a guitar. You know, you never know when you're inspired, you know? He says, no, I'm just going to observe. I'm going to observe, he said, in a nice, proper English way. I'm just going to observe. So, okay, all right. You know, and then he starts telling me his philosophy. I just don't like to have a schedule, you know. This is a real rock star. I just don't like to have a schedule. I don't like to have to do this and that. It's this day and that. It's just like, oh, if it moves me, I'll do it.
Right. Wherever the wind blows him that day.
Blow my mind.
Yeah. You're a rock star.
That's a rock star. That's a real rock star.
Right.
So, as it was, we did write 4 songs together.
Mm-hmm.
We did write 4 songs together, and it sort of started me on doing the solo album stuff.
Okay.
You know, I think before, I don't remember the exact, well, let's see, that wouldn't have been 98, 99, about 2000. Say about 2000 this was happening. And what had changed in the music business, you could put out an independent record. In the 90s, you had to have a record label.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you know, 2000, it was like people, my brother started putting out records, you know, independent records, you know. And I said, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, everyone's doing it these days.
Everybody's doing it. Even now, it gets more and more independent records, you know. Why give half the money away to a record label that won't do more work than you do?
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the thing. So yeah, that Metallica record certainly changed my life. It told me, what you do good is write songs. So write more.
Right. So I have to ask this one question that forever has been burning in my mind. Soft White Underbelly? Where did that name for the group originally come from?
Our manager, who was kind of responsible for our manager, Sandy Perlman.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really smart guy. I think he was a National Merit Scholar, one of those brainy guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at Stony Brook University on Long Island. And he was the one that discovered Donald at a party, at a jam. Okay. He said to Donald, I'm going to make a band around you. I don't know if he said, I'm going to make you a rock star, but he said, I'm going to make a band around you. And then Donald brought in Albert, and the other guys, and then I finally joined in 1970. Um, but Sandy was a sort of brainy guy, and he loved reading military books
Mm-hmm.
about, and you know, like Lovecraft. I'm trying to think of the other. There's probably a dozen other authors,
Right.
very well read. And then he would talk to you in this language that you would say, "Wow, that's brilliant." But what did he say? What does it really mean? But he
Right.
was great at that because he would go and snow people from the record label, and they would just say, "Oh, Sandy, you're a genius." And
A good
so anyway,
talker.
he's studying these military books, and Soft White Underbelly was what the military, the generals thought about Italy during World War II. Italy
Okay.
was the soft white underbelly of Europe of World War II,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that's what that happened.
Okay.
And also, he invented the name Blue Oyster Cult. When we felt it was time, we had to change our name because
Mm-hmm.
there was too much baggage from Soft White Underbelly, and then we had a little name called Stalk Forest Group. That was kind of like an interim name, but that wasn't working. And then when it was time to sign our contract with Columbia, Sandy came up with the name Blue Oyster Cult.
Okay.
And he had all these kind of like uh, uh, whole mythology
Right. Right.
about Blue Oyster Cult. What is Blue Oyster Cult? Blue Oyster Cult are the aliens that came down from outer space to change the course of history.
Change the course of rock and roll.
Change the course. It worked.
It did, absolutely. And so,
What a genius! I mean, he's
right.
he's passed away now, but
Hmm.
well, all of us cult guys, we acknowledge Sandy's. There were he wasn't the perfect manager. There's better managers,
Hmm.
mechanical, that do the business work better. But he had a concept, and he was going to make it work. He knew that that hippie music from the 60s was on the way out. I mean, it's still around, you got your Fish and you got your, you know, but it was not going to be what we would do best,
Right.
and that
Right.
was like Cities on Flame with rock and roll, where we
Hmm.
had actually, I love that song. I was just practicing it today. I love that song because it is that combination of metal and rock. And it was the transition song from the metal, from the rock and roll into the metal.
Right.
And he pushed us in that direction. And of course, we were such diverse personalities that we ended up with a much wider style than just a metal band.
Right. Right. So we mentioned Metallica being that next generation, but also, I mean, gold record artists like Twisted Sister, Iron Maiden, Alice in Chains have all cited you guys as influences that help kickstart their career. So what do you hope the next generation of music fans and musicians take away from your music?
My next generation. Well, I think I'm just completely stunned in my elder years here that we're even talking about Blue Oyster Cult. I
Hmm.
thought it would last 3 years. If we
Really?
if we lasted 3 years, that'd be a win,
Why is that?
because I didn't see any, we would have broken up or, changed something and it wouldn't work. And, but here it is. I think the catalog is so strong in this day and age because we had high ideals. We didn't want to settle for crap. We didn't want to do the typical commercial songs, that bowed down to the trends of the
Hmm.
day. There was always, uh, the guys were kind of. I was kind of surprised when I joined. They were much more sarcastic than I had ever been around a bunch of people like that. That was like,
Right.
oh, that's trash, or well, how can you listen to that? That's garbage, and and I'd think about it. It's like, yeah, you're right. So I grew with the band, and I'm still sort of chasing that. I know when I do my solo albums, people say, "Boy, that's a lot like Blue Oyster Cult." Well, it should. I was the one. I was
Yeah,
there.
right.
I invented that stuff. And
Exactly.
even when sometimes, okay, I've done a wide range of things. In 7 albums, you're going to do, you know, mandolin, folk music, or you're going to do, jazz songs, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But still, in every album, there are the songs that the people, the fans will say, "Wow, that sounds so much like Blue Oyster Cult." Well, can't help it.
Right, right. So what do you think the next generation, what do you want them to take away when listening to your
Well,
stuff?
I just think we worked hard, and there's some good feelings there. There's probably more emotion in our music than a lot of typical, rock metal bands, hard rock bands, you know. But it's not is that sappy.
Hmm.
It's romantic, but I don't know. It's hard to tell what the future
Right,
holds.
right.
I'm,
So,
you know, even when they put out this album of leftovers, I won't say, but even this, rarities record, when
hmm.
they put out, people are saying like, that's so much better than what's on the top of the charts now.
Yeah,
People don't
I
like
100%
melodies.
agree.
They're afraid of doing melodies. The
Mhm.
beats are all the same, using the same beatbox on every song.
Right.
No, we play it real. We play it live. We play it rocking,
Yeah, exactly. That's what rock and roll is all about.
and that's
Actual
what you're
live
gonna see
music.
at Iridium.
Hmm.
A real rock band. No, no, no playing along with tapes. It'll be
No tapes, no
no tapes.
laptops.
And you my ears are kind of like sharp about that. And I'll see something, I'll say, well, it'd be nice if it was all real, but it's half of it's not.
Hmm.
I won't say any specific names, but that this is a big scandal these days. These older guys, they lose their voice.
Hmm.
You know, Don Henley, I don't care if you got a sore throat, sing it anyway.
Absolutely. So
He might have an argument with me.
maybe, but who knows these days? So I really do thank you for your time. I really
Well,
appreciate you.
this has been a lot of fun.
It has. Is there anything
I
that I
love.
didn't touch on that you want to
No,
add?
I think it's all good. Just trying to encourage people to come see the show because it is, going to be a great rocking show. It's my birthday. There'll be free cake for
Yes, there will
everybody.
be.
I don't know how many people are coming, but I'm gonna have to get a couple of cakes.
At least 4 or 5, maybe 6. I hope
Yeah.
they're all Carvel ice cream cakes. Those are my personal favorite.
I don't know. We'll see. Can't melt during the show.
We're
So
gonna
so
have to
we
have a lot
all
of
we all
fridges.
want to have a big party with cake after the performance. So yeah, it's gonna be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you. And
It was
really,
great talking
like,
to you. I really appreciate
let's
it.
do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
I'd love to talk about the new record when it comes out because
Absolutely.
I'm very excited where it's going. So
All right.
it's all good.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Take
Thanks.
care. Bye.
Bye bye.